Hi everybody, let's do a quick layout update. There'll be a whole lot to show you in this, but obviously the roundhouse had a lot more tracks in it than what I had before, so I cut in a bunch more tracks and weathered it up. So it looks a lot more like the aerial photos did, and I will stick the 1971 aerial photo in right here. At that time, 1971, it hadn't been torn down that long, so there weren't as many weeds and stuff on it as there is now, or has happened over time. But I've got a lot more tracks in there, and it actually looks a lot better. So I'm running the locomotive much faster than I normally do, and I've actually sped the video up 2 times as fast. That's as fast as the iMovie will let me do it. I don't have the capability of going 3 or 4 or 5 times faster with the software I use. That's why I look like I'm walking kind of funny. The purpose of this video is to show you that right now I can run an engine everywhere through the layout, and I have 0 feeders in place. None. It's just going from the track connected to Chillicothe, going through all the turnouts, everything. I can run down any track, no hesitation, no problem. That's the advantage of the Unifrog turnouts from Pico. You can do that. Now, I don't recommend that once I ballast the track, and things like that. And, I could start losing some continuity. So I am going to add feeders in. Not a ton of them. Don't need a ton of them. But I'm going to show you where I'm going to put the feeders in. That was a request from someone on one of the comments on one of the videos. So I'm not going to show you actually me doing the feeders, because it's going to be a pain in the butt upside down. But I'm going to show you where I'm going to put them anyhow. So we'll talk about that next. I'm trying to talk loud, so I'm going to put a pair of feeders on both of these tracks. Again, they're being fed from Chillicothe right now, and the joint is soldered, but I'm going to go ahead and put a pair of feeders here. I've got turnouts here, I've got a crossover here, so I'm going to go ahead and put feeders on each of these tracks on the other side of the turnouts. Got another turnout here going to the engine terminal, so I'll put a feeder here. This whole section of track down through here. I've got a couple of pieces of flex track, but the joint is soldered. Don't see the need for the feeder there. I'll put a couple of feeders here on these tracks. I'll probably put a feeder on this track, and I'll probably put a feeder on this track here. Don't think I'll put one on track going to the warehouse, but it's not that big a deal. As far as the yard tracks, I'm not going to put any feeders. I will put a feeder right here. There's a couple turnouts right here, back to back almost. I did put a short section of straight track in between them, so I made sure that the trucks of the locomotive, I wouldn't have one truck on this, can't remember what they call point rails, and another truck on these point rails, and have a dead spot possibly. So I do have a short section of straight track in between them, so I will probably put a feeder there. That's all I'm going to do on the yard tracks. I'm not planning on putting a whole lot more on it. So I'll show you the wire that I'm going to use, and the sort of tell me to take some still pictures of how I'm going to do it, and that'll be it. So a couple weekends ago, I drove over next county, went to a hardware store. They got an old time hardware store where you can buy wire by the foot. I wanted 16 gauge, solid, stranded. They didn't have it, so I got settled for 14 gauge, a little bit heavy duty for N scale, but it'll work. I got 15 feet of each, black and white. Got this plug here, it's the kind they use on N-track. My friend Fran had a couple of these extra. We used to do N-track, and he gave them to me, so I can plug it into Chillicothe. Again, I hope I never move. I hope this is here for the next 20 years. But in case I did, I could unplug it and not have cut wires. But anyhow, so I'm going to use that. As far as the feeders, I've got some solid 22 gauge, again black and white, and I'll solder that, drill holes down next to the rails, solder that in, run this underneath. I'll show you how I'm going to suspend it there. If you want to know about wiring, Oak Hill was a pleasure to wire. Most people have two tasks on model railroading. They hate, wiring and ballasting. I don't mind either one of them, to be honest with you. Matter of fact, I will ballast my track pretty soon after everything, because I like the look of ballasted track. I won't wait till all the scenery is done and then ballast the track. I never have. I like the look of finished track. If you want to talk about wiring, look at my Oak Hill playlist, the original ones when I started building Oak Hill, and the wiring was done upside down in the garage. It was a piece of cake. You know, I soldered the feeders on, dropped them down through, flipped the whole thing over, soldered them to bus wires, and actually I didn't even have to solder them. I used these suitcase connectors, which I'm going to use again. Hopefully I've got enough of them to be close. I might have to order some more. So anyhow, I'll put a couple still pictures in here and there and talk about the wiring, but you're not going to see much scenery progress on the layout coming up, because I really need to do this. I hate to do it because I want to work on buildings and stuff, but that's what I'm going to be working on. Okay, it's Sunday evening. I got wiring done. What I did was I didn't have a lot of the suitcase connectors. You can see it, I have I've got 4 wires soldered together here. I'll cover those with electrical tape. I did that, I connected multiple feeders together so I didn't have so many suitcase connectors. Pretty simple. If I do add any just plug wiring, junk it up real quick, because Oak Hill looked this good until I added some lights and everything. Now it's a rat's nest underneath there. But anyhow, I added all the feeders where I said I was going to. Every time I soldered a feeder on, I turned the layout on. Make sure it didn't short out. Make sure I didn't screw up something. And actually the first one I soldered, I got my black and white mixed up. I wasn't sure if the black was the inside rail or the outside rail. Soldered one on, turned it on, shorted out, fixed the problem. Never any problems after that. But I have to clean up some of the connections, where the feeders, come in. I'll clean those up. And then after you paint the track, you won't notice them as much, and put the ties in, everything. I know you can solder feeders to the bottom of the rail, but you have to do a lot of planning for that. So I'm satisfied with doing it this way. I don't notice them in chalk out here, Oak Hill, as long as I clean them up a little bit. So that's all I've got right now. If I get anything else, I'll tack it on before I post this video. So I was watching the video. I noticed that the main line had like a little kink in it, so that is not glued down yet. So if somebody comments, "Oh, your track works terrible," that's not glued down. I will put a straight edge on it and glue it down. But I mean, you'll never look at it from this angle anyhow. But still, we'll try to get it straight as I can. So last thing before we go, I think I showed you these 3 hoppers that I bought. Mainly to be used for standard elevator. I did weather them lightly. I still need to weather the trucks a little bit. Mainly I just dusted them. I try to weather cars appropriate for their age. So the chassis system was formed in '72. According to the stencils in this car, on these cars, which I can read, they were painted in '75 or built in '75. So, they're about 5 years old, give or take, based on, my layout. So I will try to weather them, a little bit more, but I'm not going to rust them all up. I'm not going to make them real bad. So put those in service pretty soon. That's all I've got for this update. Short one. Have some operations videos this weekend. Everybody stay safe. Hey, this evening we had a nice surprise. Had 2 red-winged blackbirds. Must be migrating south. Haven't seen one of those on the feeder for quite a while, but we definitely got 2 tonight, even if the picture isn't that great.